Eternity's Shadow by E. Thomas Canton. Copyright 2024 E. Thomas Canton. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopy, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system, without written consent from the publisher. Credits. Voices by MURF.com. Sound effects from www.freesoundslibrary.com. And additional sound effects from www.zapsplat.com and pixarbari.com. Music by www.zapsplat.com and IB.
There's a story, perhaps apocryphal, that as Adam's Wild walked through a forested path near her university, she came across two philosophy professors engaged in a heated debate. When she asked what had caused such rancor between the colleagues, they told her of their conversation. The entire human race is about to be wiped out, but you can save everyone by killing your baby. Would you do it? Kill the baby, was her immediate response. Helen Schaefer. Octavia Wilde, The Definitive Biography Volume 1. The street names were, of course, different, and it didn't appear as depressing as our Earth, despite the grey skies and cold. Still, we recognized places, people, and things similar to our Earth. A world like ours had been always what I hoped to find. Now that I had found it, I felt unsettled to think there might be another me out there. That vague, unsettled feeling became a physical revulsion. Am I not one of a kind? Unique? Wasn't that the message of my home Earth? God made you, and no one else could claim to be the same as you. You were special. If you go by the math, duplicates of everyone populate the multiverse. Physical revulsion wasn't the usual reaction I had to a new discovery. It forced me to examine the cause of this feeling during the hour of walking it took us to locate the tech stores. After some searching, we found one store that had everything we needed, and not much in the way of security. I occupied the clerk as the minister shoplifted our supplies. Keeping the pimple-faced teen preoccupied proved simple. He fidgeted, not looking me in the face, preferring instead to keep his eyes on the display case below. I allowed my mind to wander and continued to examine my feelings. It took a while, but I concluded that my feelings of revulsion were culture shock. However, since it came from interdimensional travel, which derived from quantum mechanics, a more accurate description would be quantum shock. And it mixed with more than a brief panic. Now, the panic I already understood. I had no home or fen anymore, and I felt adrift at sea, tossed by the waves with no control over any of it. I needed to regain control over my life, and I would only get that if I could stop Brexus. From what I understood about culture shock, it would wear off soon enough, so I stopped worrying about it. I had enough on my plate already. Still, me being me, I would have examined it more, but I noticed the minister had walked out the door. Presumably, he had the goods. Making up an excuse, I exited the store to meet the minister at the pre-arranged location. During our stroll up Queen Diana Avenue to find the tech stores, I saw a dirt lane full of garages. According to the sign on the side of one of them, it belonged to an electrician named Bob. Bob's a solid name. You can't go wrong with a name like Bob. Of course, if I ever had a boy, I'd give him a cool name like Achilles. But that's me. Anyway, I hoped Bob would have some electrical equipment we could borrow. After checking to make certain no one was home, we broke into Bob's garage. And sure enough, I found everything I could have asked for. The minister handed me what he had liberated from the store. 2 headsets with microphones, 2 CPUs, and a few other knickknacks tumbled from his hands onto the homemade workbench. I set to work as he stood guard. Looking back at the minister, I saw him watching out the door and felt terrible. I had refused to tell him my plan. I couldn't. Billions of lives depended on it, and I couldn't allow myself any doubts. We followed the gizmo thingy to an alley with a dead-end brick wall. No door existed, although the plaintive beeping of the gizmo thingy insisted otherwise. It took several minutes, but the door manifested itself in the brick wall. Weird. It sort of dissolved out of nowhere. The minister theorized a door existed there at one point, but someone had since torn it down or bricked it up. He had an excellent theory, and it made sense to me. Using my quantum key, I opened the door to allow the minister into the glass tunnel. Once there, he could open the aperture when the time came. I left the minister and raced back to the original Queen Street door that brought us to this world. This got me thinking about the connections between universes. Most worlds that we had been to had two doors connecting their universe to the Nexus. It's possible that the walls between certain universes and the Nexus were thinner, allowing for more than one connection. Sometimes, the walls were thicker, allowing for only one connection to the Nexus. That intrigued me, and it had been something I hadn't thought of. As I approached the original door on Queen Street, I adjusted the gizmo thingy to tell the CCP to spin this door around so that it interfaced with the platform. With the door in place, I put my headphones on, placed the microphone to my lips, and instructed the minister to begin. Opening my door, I proceeded to the aperture. Before opening it, I peered through the small center hole. The minister opened his aperture. His arms flailed as he screamed. The cloud shot off to kill him. Good. It worked. Wait, that's not what I meant. I meant our plan was going as well planned. I opened my aperture and ran across the bridge to the CCP.
Okay, now what?
He asked into his headset as the cloud closed in. We have to hurry, I said, manipulating the CCP. When this goes, I won't have much time.
Are you certain she won't see this coming? She is you, after all. She'll know what you're thinking.
The day anyone can outthink me is the day I die. I prayed today wasn't that day. I had already thought of all these arguments and rejected them. This would work. I hoped.
You know, one of these days, that attitude is going to come back and bite you in the ass.
Not today, I said. Besides, because she looks like me doesn't mean she is me. She may have read my mind earlier, but that required physical touch. And she's not here now. I turned back to my duty, knowing that everything I had worked for, everything Fen and I had worked for, now had to be destroyed. All those years, all that sacrifice, to see it end like this. I understood it had become necessary. What good had come of the Nexus, anyway? My world destroyed along with 7 billion people. Fen dead. And the minister and I running for our lives. I should never have built the damned thing. But I hesitated to destroy it. Every brilliant idea I'd ever had, and every hope I'd ever had gone into creating the platform. To me, it became more than an experiment. It had become me, or at least as much a part of me as my fingers or my head. It would kill me to do it, but the sacrifice was necessary to stop Brexus. I snapped out of my melancholy to realize the minister stood in his aperture, watching me. He looked worried. I smiled to let him know I was okay, and took one last look around. Stalling. Still unable to kill my baby.
Brooke, something's wrong. I can't see the cloud.
My eyes darted around like frightened birds, but I couldn't see it either. Turning back to the CCP, I quickened my pace, now eager to end my creation and start a new life on a new world.
Brooke, behind you.
I checked the readings for the minister's door on the CCP. Grabbing Fen's picture out of my pocket, I scribbled his coordinates down on the back. My hand smashed the 9 iron down, and I ripped the gizmo thingy from its holster as I dashed toward the door in the interface. The minister's journal lay discarded on the platform, and for some ridiculous reason, I picked it up as I ran. I don't know why, but something told me it might be important. I had no reason to believe it, and in hindsight, it felt pretty dumb to delay my escape and grab it, but I did it anyway. Jamming the journal into my back pocket, I looked behind me to see the cloud eat its way through the CCP. A hollowness grew in the pit of my stomach. I knew would never go away. It had been the same hollowness I'd felt outside the office of admissions when I'd heard Fenn's last scream. All the thoughts and theories, all the worlds I had opened up, all the things I could do, and I'd been helpless to save her. I'd stood there, letting her die. Now, as I stood watching the CCP's death throes, it all came back to me. I remained helpless. Too helpless to save what I had created. I wanted to find some dark place, crawl away and cry. And yet I couldn't take my eyes off the dying moments of my CCP. It had been the central control panel that had held everything together into the cohesive whole that made up my creation. Without it, everything fell apart at a rate that left me astonished. Apertures began ghosting. The minister. I looked up to see the minister fade away. His world had become one of the increasing number of ghost doors. Cracks appeared in the sphere of screens that protected the CCP from the energy of the Nexus. Now the blue-white Nexian energy penetrated through the darkness of the sphere of screens and erased the ghost apertures it came into contact with. I'd waited too long. The apertures ghosted and vanished far quicker than I expected. I ran to the door waiting in the interface only to come face to face with a second cloud. It had emerged from nowhere, cutting me off from my only route of escape. I now stood trapped between two approaching clouds. They moved ever closer, never breaking their pace, never slowing. I watched every millimeter of their approach. Think. Whatever you're going to do it now. My hands shook. I took deep breaths to calm my mind. The calmer your mind, the clearer you think. My fear had to be controlled, cause once you allow it free rein, your mind shuts down. You stop thinking and you might as well drop dead. Drop? And that's when it hit me. Oh, no. There's gotta be another way. I climbed over the railing and grabbed my gizmo thingy. I don't want to do this. My knees bent. Do I have to? I located the nearest aperture beneath me that hadn't ghosted yet. Okay. Here goes nothing. I jumped off the bridge and into nothing. What remained of the sphere of screens now had gigantic tears in it. Shooting through those cracks, the blue-white light of the Nexian energy acted like waves on a shore. At first, rolling inward before receding. With each cycle, the energy became more powerful, receding less and less with each surge. This would continue until, I presumed, it would no longer recede at all, and the sphere of screens would no longer exist. Okay. Enough sightseeing. I have to get that door open. I tried to see if I could get the aperture below me to open. It had become the only hope I had left. Come on. Nothing happened. It didn't work. Of course it's not working. The CCP was dead. The gizmo thingy can open doors. But only through the CCP. No. That left me with only one option I could think of in the time given. I didn't know if I could do it. The aperture flew closer now. I'm going to be so hurt. Okay. I need to aim myself. That's when the energy from the Nexus overwhelmed the aperture. As the blue-white light receded, I realized it had destroyed my only escape route right in front of me. I'm dead. I inhaled a deep breath, overcome with a muted peacefulness. It surprised me how serene I had become. I took solace that the minister, at least, had escaped to live life on another Earth. If this was to be the end, what had been the point of everything I'd gone through? What's the point of anything anyone does? The human species exists on the level of relativity like the universe itself, with everything being structured and predictable. Planets move in repeatable patterns according to the laws of physics. A planet maintains its orbit around a star with mathematical certainty. Stars, themselves, are born, exist for a cosmically brief time, and die in glorious explosions, providing the seeds for the next generation of suns. Human beings as a species also exist for a brief time to provide the seeds for the next generation. We rise in the morning, go about our business of surviving, providing food and shelter for our offspring, and sleeping at night. As the sun rises, the pattern repeats. Like relativity, you need to examine the microparticles and the micromoments in order to see the true nature of existence. The quantum level, a place of chaos and unpredictability, where you can only assess probabilities and certainty doesn't exist. Particles pop into existence almost randomly, and pop out of existence without warning or explanation. As individual human beings, we are born almost randomly across our world and our species, and can pop out of existence without warning or explanation: a car accident, a suicide, a murder victim. As the universe could not exist without the quantum level, the human species could not exist without the individual. Accepting this, the question then becomes more about the relationship between the individual particle on the quantum level to the entire universe. How does one particle contribute to the existence of all the stars, planets, nebulae, and black holes? To be certain, some particles, like some people, affect the whole more than others. It becomes an undeniable truth that we may never know how each quantum element makes its own contribution to the universe, as we may never know the lasting impact of our lives on others after we are gone. I can't help but think that nothing we do will survive the endless eons, and that the unknowable size of the multiverse will always dwarf even the greatest of achievements. The shadow of eternity will forever eclipse the light of your life, no matter how bright you shine. Or could it all be an illusion? A trick of the eyes? Admittedly, surface comparisons of scientific theory and humanity might be nothing more than a mere repetition of natural patterns, like fractals. And how does this all play out in a multiverse where, in theory, countless copies of every individual exist? I'll not live to discover the answers I'm seeking. With that in mind, I turned for one last look at the death of my creation. The sphere of screens began to shake and melt away as it collapsed inwards, destroying itself. I could find no consolation in hoping at least Brexus wouldn't be able to use the platform either. I looked forward again. That's when I saw it, a solitary star in the distance. The shock of seeing it made me hesitate. A second aperture hid underneath the first. I aimed myself at my new target, but blue-white Nexian energy shot through the sphere of screens toward the aperture. Angling my head down, I became like a cannonball. And like a cannonball, I slammed into the closed aperture. Pain exploded in my upper right arm, but the emptiness of my surroundings swallowed my scream whole. My reddened face lay on the cold metal blades as I took quick, deep breaths. In front of me, Nexian energy surged forward. I inserted my hands into the small opening in the center of the metal blades, pulling until my muscles ached. The blades opened, but only an insignificant amount. The burning in my upper arm forced me to stop. Out of my peripheral vision, I saw the blue-white energy hurtle toward me. Clutching the blades once more, I pulled until I felt as if I would tear off my arms. The aperture flew open. Unprepared, I plummeted through the glass tunnel and impacted the door with such force I felt I broke a rib or two. I opened the door and dropped through the metal